Stop waiting for a housing crash in Palm Beach County real estate. It just isn't coming. While the national media is obsessed with Florida's housing inventory exploding, it's actually down year over year in Palm Beach County. So look, if you're waiting for a better deal, you might just be waiting yourself out of the market. My name is Prindle. I'm a Jupiter Realtor, but I cover all of Palm Beach County. I'm looking at the March 2026 real estate data for places like Jupiter and Palm Beach Gardens, and I gotta be honest with you, the sweet spot is kind of shifting. In this video, I'm gonna show you things like exactly when to buy a waterfront condo, how to avoid the seasonal bidding wars, and really important for some people, when to buy a single family home and how you relate that to the school year calendar. And we're gonna take a look at the granddaddy of all statistics, month's supply of housing inventory. And we're gonna answer the question, are single family homes back to a seller's market? For my sellers out there, stick around till the end of the video. I wanna tell you about a new deal killer that's out there. And for the first time in a long time, this doesn't have to do with roofs or windows. So let's jump into the numbers and start with why you shouldn't even pay attention to that $520,000 median home price in Palm Beach County. All right, folks, you ready to go? Here we are, median pricing, $520,000, down from $540,000 year over year. As I pointed out a bunch of times, and you can look across here, the last couple of years we've been bouncing around a bit, but relatively level. As I say with median pricing, don't put a whole lot of stock in it. The reason's simple, too much of a divergence of property types here in Palm Beach County. We have really expensive stuff with not so expensive stuff. To me, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to use it, especially when you factor in the fact, we have seasonality. We have times of the year where it's much busier than others. I just don't put a whole lot of weight in it, but if you want to look at it and say overall the last couple of years, our pricing's been about relatively stable and we're not cratering on price, I think those are some good takeaways to take from median pricing. Total number of properties sold. Now we do like to look at this one. We're going to spend a little time on this. First of all, up 13.5% month over month. Were we expecting this? Of course we were. This is the seasonal bump. This is where we start the seasonal run up, just like every year. So 1,578 sales year over year. We're down from, I think it was about 1,800. So we're off about 220 sales throughout the entire county in the span of a month year over year. Once again, things cratering? No, things are not cratering. Sales are holding up. I do want to throw a couple of anecdotes into this whole how busy the market's getting. That at the end of the video, I want to point some things out we're going to go through. So for now, we'll just stay focused on the data, which again says, look, we're up month over month. Pretty much we're expecting this. This is exactly where we want to be. How do you use this data? Buyers, what are you buying? If you're buying a waterfront condo and you come to me and you ask me for the best advice, I'm going to tell you, season's almost wrapped up here. We're in the middle of March. Things start to thin out around April or so. People who are done with their units for the season and they are now thinking about selling them, you're going to see that inventory start to come through in May, June, July. That's really the time where you want to buy a waterfront condo in Palm Beach County if you're shopping for one, because few other people are. Right now, while the season's winding down, you've got some desperation with people who maybe weren't able to buy what they wanted to buy. They're now going to start bidding up those properties. Happens every year. So you just kind of want to avoid that. There are some caveats. There are some sweet spots. Look, outside of Palm Beach County, if you're looking for great value in waterfront condos, if you haven't checked out Hutchinson Island, I got a deal under contract there now for a client. I think the pricing there is outstanding. So if you consider leaving Palm Beach County and going up to Martin County, I think Hutchinson Island might be a place to check out. Anyways, I digress. Outside of waterfront condos, if you are looking at single family homes inland in very good school districts, that inventory tends to come to market when the school year winds down. So sellers are starting to think a little bit about, hey, do we want to switch school districts? If we do, we may want to consider putting our house out there. I've gotten a couple of those phone calls. So the reason I bring this up is to say, now the single family home market, we're going to go from a waterfront condo market, which starts to peak and head back down. And we're going to get into a single family home market as we get closer to summer, especially in good school districts. Those are when those properties transact the most. So you've still got a window here if you're looking at single family homes in good school districts where I think you can get competitive pricing. As we get further into the summer, it becomes a double-edged sword. We see more inventory. We also see more buyers. So just plan that into your strategy accordingly. Sold to list price ratio. Man, for a while I felt like sellers were kind of getting the message that they were going to have to price less than they wanted to in order to get their property moved, and this will tie into median days on market, the next slide. But for now, just understand sold to list price ratio. Sellers want to be up here. They want to get 102% of their asking price. That's not where we are. We are down here at 95%. Sellers are coming 5% off of their asking price on average. If you're a seller and you beat that 5% off ask, you did pretty well. If you're a buyer, that's your yardstick. You want to hurdle over 5% if possible. And again, this is for the county overall. There's going to be some markets which are much tighter than others. But that's kind of the general yardstick. Median days on market. Man, let's spend a minute on this because it's an important statistic. Who wants higher days on market? Of course, buyers want higher days on market. The reason they want higher days on market is something's been on the market for like 200 days. Man, sellers, if you've been on market that long and you see that properties are transacting on average in 57 days, now this is just the amount of days we go from active to pending, not pending to closed. So you're going to have to add 30 to 45 days on the back end of this to figure out how long it is till you actually get your money, or if you're a buyer, till you actually close. But let's just use 57 days, and I've got my property on the market, and I've had it on market for 120 days. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Usually that something wrong is either pricing or presentation. Can have to be marketing as well. Those are really the three things that can go wrong: pricing, presentation, and marketing. In real estate, it boils down to one of those three things, or all of those three things are just not working. Now, if you're a buyer, you want to take advantage of this. What I mean by that is, if you see something that is on market for 200 days, that seller's either one of two things. Either not understanding what's going on in the background, maybe they're getting bad information from their agent, we don't really know. Or they're just stuck in their pricing model, and they're just saying, well, this is my price and I'm not budging from that. For us, if you're working with me, it doesn't matter. We ignore listing price. That's just an invitation to make an offer. Listing price is not really, it doesn't have anything to do with the market. We're going to look at what's out there and what's sold, and we're going to come up with our own price. And that's where we're submitting an offer. So hopefully we're relatively close to the seller, but we're going to back our offer up with data. That's how I do it. Sometimes the sellers don't respond. Sometimes they don't like it. I happen to think it's because they're not looking at the same data we are, and we encourage their agent to share the data with them. But look, all of this is going around to say one thing: median days on market. Buyers want higher median days on market because it means the sellers aren't seeing many offers. It means that this 57 days on market, it means that this home seller put their property out on the market and they sat there for 2 months waiting for somebody to make an offer until somebody did and they accepted one. Man, I wasn't expecting this to keep climbing, I'll be honest with you. I thought our median days were going to start pulling down. I think what 57 days on market really shows you is some froth in the market, right? It just shows some overpricing. I think that's why you see things that end up transacting 5% from their original sold price down to where they actually transact. The market's not quite as efficient as I was hoping it would be by now. In an ideal world where I think you're balancing buyers and sellers, where you don't have this absolute rush of COVID where we're down here, 10 days on market, which was crazy.
Because that meant if you saw a property on Monday, realistically by Thursday or Friday, you had to have an offer together, had to have your price together. That's not healthy. It's also not healthy when we get up here at, 60, 90 days on some of these crazy median days on market. That's not healthy either. In my ideal world, we're somewhere around 30 to 45 days. So I think we're a little heavy on median days on market. I think we got some sellers that are throwing darts at a board and they're just kind of missing. So anyways, look, buyers, I think this is still good news for you. 57 days on market means that you can see a property, digest it a little bit, spend 2 or 3 weeks touring around and seeing other properties. Around that 4th or 5th week, start to decide, hey, that property that we saw week 1, should we maybe go back and take another serious look at that or make an offer on that? I think that's a healthy strategy. And I think right now you can pull that off. Median price per square foot, just like median home pricing, not really going to pay much attention to this. Simply put, if you want to buy $300 a square foot new construction in Jupiter Farms, ain't going to happen. You want to buy $300 a square foot out in Palm Beach Island, ain't going to happen. You want to buy $300 a square foot in some other areas where things are trading at $250 a foot, probably gonna happen. You're gonna overbid. So the areas are just so different in Palm Beach County. I don't like to put too much weight into this, but I think what you can see kind of overall, just like with median pricing, median price per square foot has been level, and that's about all I would give that stat. All right, let me move myself around the page here a little bit. All right, total dollar volume, another thing. We don't put stock in this really. It's not something I track heavily. The only thing to note is just like the total number of properties that get sold, logically you would say this makes sense. You have the run up, you have the run up, you have the run up. So we were expecting the total dollar volume to be higher because there were more property sales, which we were also expecting. I just don't think that you want to put a whole lot of weight in total dollar volume, but let's scroll down to the Granddaddy statistic. All right. Little coffee to keep me going. Somebody told me to put butter in coffee. Have any of you guys tried this? I don't think I'm sold on that. I put milk in my coffee. No sugar, just milk, then I'm good. Depending on the time of day, might drop a little vodka or whiskey into there, but all right. Months of supply. 6.5 months of supply. Look, for those of you that are new to this is my favorite statistic. You want to ask me how a housing market is doing, the first thing I want to look at is what do we have for months of supply. Months of supply is just calculated by if you took the number of sales that happened in the last month, if that level of sales just stayed level, and we kept going, how many months would it take to eat up the existing inventory? That's what this stat is. So it gets dialed up and down based on how many listings are available and how fast the pace of sales is. That's how we get this. Look, over the last year, we're down 11%. Buyers, that's not a good thing for you. Buyers, that means you have 11% less inventory to choose from. Kind of a big deal. Buyers want higher months of supply. Man, this time last year, this was really easy to work with buyers. Honestly, it was. The market to me still feels like a buyer's market, as we've said. If you, on average for the nation, 6 months of supply is considered market neutral, favoring neither buyers nor sellers. In Palm Beach County, I think that's around 4 or 5 months. So I still do think we're favoring buyers. I just don't think we're favoring buyers quite as heavily as we were. I do want to show you something interesting. Let me move myself around here. Okay, I've switched the data to just single family homes. So I want to segment this between condos, townhomes, and single family homes real quick. So we're at 5 months of supply of inventory on single family homes. Again, national average, we would be running below 6 months of supply. Wow, so we'd actually be considered a seller's market here in Palm Beach County. which is wild because if you read everything out there, they're constantly telling me that Florida's horrible and Palm Beach County has so much supply and yada, yada, yada. Look, man, just the stats just don't play out. We are seeing a little bit of an upswing here. We have been coming down. This, I will say, is true. It's not really difficult to work with a single family home buyer, but it really depends on what community you're looking at. And I think that skews some of these statistics. Some communities are getting really tight for single family home sales. Like the days on market are going way down. I just had something in Jupiter Farms. It was out there for, I listed it, was on market for 2 weeks pending and actually had multiple offers on it. So there are pockets where the market's going to feel tighter, and there are products where the market's going to feel tighter. I can tell you right now, almost every buyer that comes through the door right now for me, they want turnkey, they don't want projects, they want things that are looking complete and they're paying up for them. This has kind of been the trend. I think this is going to continue to be the trend. If you're a buyer looking for that product, it's going to feel tight. Again, and depending on the community that you're in, you got to research it. Ask me what supply looks like in given neighborhoods, in given areas. It's going to feel tighter and looser. But look, here's why I bring this up is not so much to show you the months of supply of single family homes. Let's do this. Let's scroll over. Let's just do condos and townhomes. Look at this, folks. Condo market is still supposed to be an absolute bloodbath. Well, here we are. We have almost 11% less inventory on condos right now. 8 months of supply, yes, it's a buyer's market. Yes, I'll confirm that working with buyers. It's a buyer's market. Here's what I'm telling you. My honest opinion, the bottom's in on condos. This is it. This is the last breath for where you're going to get a good deal on a condo. If you're going condo shopping, call me. We need to talk about it. Because your strategy has changed in the last year. Let me just abbreviate this and say it like this. The structural integrity reports, all the assessments, these have washed through on almost all the buildings that are around here. The budgets have been shored up. The assessments have been made. You're buying a condo now with somebody else having paid to do all of that work. You're coming in and getting, I don't want to say a new product, but you're getting a building that's been heavily renovated. As long as they've gone through structural integrity reports and budget auditing and all that kind of stuff, man, I think people have seen you don't need to be scared of this like you had to be a few years ago. If you're a condo buyer, I really think this, especially coming into this summer season, this is going to be the season of buying, man. I don't think it's going to be easier next year. I think this is the window where you want to buy a condo. That's bottoms in, folks. That's my call. All right, I shrunk myself down because I want you guys to see this. This is data that Lance Lambert puts out with Resi Club. Love his data. This is a 1-year shift in housing inventory between February 25 and February 26. Now, we just looked at inventory. Higher inventory is good for who? Good for buyers. Lower inventory, good for who? Good for sellers. Let's look at this map. We're actually down 4%. So we're actually getting better for sellers in Florida, right? Year over year. It's getting worse for sellers and better for buyers in places like Maine, Massachusetts, where my parents are. 10% more inventory. It means if my parents go to list their house right now in Massachusetts, there's 10% more choices out there for buyers to have. That insane seller's market that they've had up in Massachusetts, is that starting to ease? Statistics tell you, hey, this is a good leading stat. That may be coming. There may be some relief for buyers coming. It may be more difficult for sellers in a lot of different areas. Maine, 20%. That's Texas. We're up 11%. I think this is a really good statistic for you to look at, especially we get a lot of people that are looking to move down to Florida. Look at where you are on this map if you're considering making a move. If you're in one of these areas where suddenly inventory is flying, I mean, you have inventory exploding, you may really look at this and say, oh, if I see inventory shrinking here and inventory growing, I don't want this to get worse. I don't want my inventory to get higher if Florida's gets lower, because that means it's going to be harder for me to sell my home and then harder for me to buy a home. That's not the equation I want. I want it the other way around. I want it easier to sell and easier to buy, right? So take a look at this. I think this is a really good data point for people to look at if you're thinking about moving to Florida, right? All right, so I promised you guys some hot takes you're not going to hear anywhere else. Here's an easy one. You'll hear this everywhere. Mortgage rates, as they continue to stay lower, as mortgage rates do tick down, you would expect the market to get a lot tighter. Buyers are going to rush in the lower that interest rates go. So if you're a buyer or a seller, you want to keep an eye on those. If you're a buyer, really what you want to do is structure a contract where you're getting mortgage rate buy down put into it, take advantage of the inventory that's out there now, but have the seller pay to buy the interest rate down for you through a seller's concession, so that you'll be able to lock in a lower interest rate because that person's going to pay your points. That's the strategy to use right now if you're a buyer. And that's what I'm telling all my buyers to use. I think it's, unless you're cash, you got to do this. All right, other leading indicators. For me, I see these all the time. Vendors. When vendors start to tell me they're too busy or they push timelines out, I know that that's a leading indicator. We're about to see some heavy market activity. The property inspector that I use a lot, they're out about a week and a half. This time last year, they were like 2 or 3 days out. So they're busy. Just talked to an appraiser yesterday. He said he's got a lot of work right now. This time last year, same thing. Didn't have much work. If you do a deal with me, there are 2 attorneys that I'm going to give to you. I'm going to give you both of their names until you talk to these people, because I've been doing business with them for over a decade. They're very competent. I sent 30-day contracts to each of those attorneys this week. Both of them asked me if I could make it a 45-day contract, because they're really backed up, and they're having trouble getting their closings squeezed in within a 30-day time period. These are all things that when I hear anecdotally, it tells me that the market's heating up. So again, it's just kind of a commentary on what I'm seeing, but I do think it's really valuable, because I'm telling you, each time that this has happened, each time the vendors have told me they're backed up, it's led ahead of people getting the memo that the window's kind of closing for buyers. So again, if I'm a buyer, take that in. That's a really interesting data point. So for a bunch of years, roofs for insurance were a big problem. Not having proper window coverings were a big problem. I often couldn't get people insurance, or if I could, the rates were astronomical for these things. It seems now that sellers have shored up a lot of those. They know if you're coming to market, you have to get these things taken care of. Otherwise, a buyer, forget financing, a buyer may just not be able to get insurance. So unless you're finding somebody self-insuring, this is a huge problem. It seems that largely the agent community and seller community started to understand you have to do those things prior to listing a property. Here's what I'm seeing pop up. I'm seeing electric panels pop up left and right. I'm seeing people who can't get insurance because the electric panel is old and outdated. I haven't seen that yet. That's new. I don't know if there's a tightening of standards within the insurance industry, but I got several different things rejected this week through insurance companies because of insurance panels. So sellers, this is something I do encourage you. If you're going to list your property, you want to do a pre-market inspection anyways. If you're going to list with me, we'll talk about that. But I'm seeing this pop up. So if you're thinking about selling, look, this is even happening in condos. So take a look at the breaker box, see how old it is, find out. I don't care if you call an electrician or somebody else. I would prefer that you do a full pre-inspection or pre-market inspection report, but at least call an electrician, find out You know, is this panel still viable? That's important, guys. That's becoming really important. So that's it. That's what I got for you this month. Hope to see you guys next month, and hope I gave you something valuable. Take care.